Madam Vice President, before the election, 2/3 of Americans felt that the country was on the wrong track, according to an NBC poll. On issues like the border, cost of living, the perception of crime, 43% of Americans felt like Joe Biden's policies had personally hurt them. Understanding that many people saw you as an extension of Joe Biden, were there glaring warning signs that when there's only two options to vote on, that you missed going into Election Day?
You know, I write about it, as you all know, in the book, and I know that's probably the first chapter you read is my chapter on The View. But it really, the book is about a reflection. And that day in that interview, for me, really was symbolic of the issue. It did not create the issue, but it was symbolic of the issue, which is that I'm a loyal person. And I didn't fully appreciate how much people wanted to know there was a difference between me and President Biden. I thought it was obvious. And I didn't want to offer a difference in a way that would be received or suggested to be a criticism. And you know, in the campaign, full time I was pointing out the differences. My theory of the case was we need to bring costs down. We're going to extend the child tax credit. We're going to have Medicare cover home health care for people, including people in the sandwich generation who are raising young children and taking care of their parents. It was about we're going to take on price gouging, bringing down costs. And I thought I was making the point. And I realize now that I didn't fully appreciate
that
how much of an issue it was.
Yeah, that President Biden was deeply unpopular. I did realize that. And during your appearance, and you write about it, you say, everything about my appearance on The View was going well until it wasn't. And if you recall, you were here 28 days before the election. And I asked you if there was anything you would have done differently than President Biden during the past 4 years. And you said, quote, "There is not a thing that comes to mind," end quote. You write you had no idea, you just pulled the pin on a hand grenade. In the moment, I knew. The Trump campaign weaponized your answer against you, my question. And some, including James Carville and Jake Tapper, point to that answer as a turning point in your candidacy. Do you think that moment tipped the election?
No.
Good, because Sunny doesn't want to take the blame.
There was kind of a confessional happening here. No.
Solve you?
Exactly. No. There were many things. I mean, listen. I do believe one of the biggest deciders of the outcome of that election was that the American people were sick of things being so expensive.
Yes.
And wanted that the prices would come down. And that's where, you know, this is part of why I wrote the book, which is let's remember in those 107 days what Donald Trump was talking about. Yeah. First of all, he said his number one priority and the number one thing he would do was bring down costs.
Yeah.
That's what he said. And I believe there are a lot of people who voted for him believing that that's what he would do. Fast forward to today.
Yeah. Hello.
Prices are higher, the cost of food is higher, inflation is higher, unemployment is higher. He lied.
Yeah.
He lied. Meanwhile, there are certain promises he did keep, which is he was going to weaponize the Department of Justice and go after his political enemies, that he was going to silence critics against him, that he was going to fulfill whatever his fragile ego needed through the tool of our federal government. That he did, whatever he needed to do to enrich himself, literally his pockets, not to mention his ego, he has done. And I think it's important as we move forward to realize that they did what they said they were going to do. I heard a story about a friend of mine was telling me about a Cuban American whose partner was being deported to Sudan, and that person was a big Trump supporter, and thought, well, why is this happening? Well, but he said he was only going to go after criminals.
Right. That's what he said.
He lied.
Tell you what, they ain't singing "Voy a votar por Donald Trump." They ain't singing that anymore in Miami.
But part of what we have to remember about that election is, I think there are lessons about you've got to listen to what they tell you, and this is bigger than Trump. And this is part of what I also write about in this book. We are talking about an agenda that has been decades in the making.
Yep. Yes.
For which we are now witnessing a high-velocity event that feels like chaos because it's all happening so rapidly. But it is about the implementation, the swift implementation of a plan that has been decades in the making, the Federalist Society, the Heritage Foundation.
Right.
This did not just happen overnight. He has been a useful tool for an agenda that is much broader than the one individual. Let's be clear about that.
Yes.